Every system has an architect, a mind or, a collection of minds that lays down the first blueprint. For the modern public school system, especially in the United States, one name stands out with remarkable clarity: Horace Mann. In the mid-19th century, Mann looked at the sprawling, chaotic, and rapidly industrializing American landscape and saw a problem. He saw a society in need of order, of common values, and of a workforce that could power the new engines of industry. His vision wasn't born in a vacuum. It was a response to the pressing demands of his time. He believed passionately in the power of a common school to be the great equalizer, a place where children from all walks of life could be molded into productive and virtuous citizens. But what does it mean to be a productive citizen in an industrial age? Mann's vision, while noble in its intent to create a more cohesive society, was fundamentally utilitarian. His dream was one of uniformity, a noble goal perhaps, but one with deep and lasting consequences. This idea of schooling as a tool for social engineering was honestly pretty revolutionary. Before Mann, education was largely a private affair, reserved for the wealthy or handled within the family and the church. Mann's crusade for public standardized education changed everything. He argued that a republic could not sustain itself without an educated populace, but the definition of educated was subtly shifting. It was becoming less about classical pursuit of wisdom and more about the practical acquisition of skills needed for the burgeoning economy. Horace Mann did not conjure his vision from thin air. Like any great innovator, he looked abroad for inspiration. He found it in the Kingdom of Prussia. In the early 19th century, Prussia had a highly efficient, state-controlled education system. It was the envy of the world. After being humbled by Napoleon, Prussian leaders blamed military weakness on a lack of unity and poor education. Their solution was radical: a compulsory public school system. It was built to produce obedient soldiers, compliant workers, unwavering loyalists, a machine for forging national identity and ensuring social control. The Prussian model rested on standardization and conformity. It sorted children into age-based grades and enforced a standardized curriculum. Teachers were trained in state-run seminaries, with emphasis on discipline, rote memorization, unquestioning respect for authority. The structure minimized individuality and maximized conformity. Its purpose was to mold predictable components of the state machine, not to spark curiosity. Horace Mann and other American reformers were mesmerized by the order and efficiency. They imported a blueprint for social engineering that prioritized the collective. School bells echo factory whistles. Knowledge divided into separate subjects mirrors assembly line labor: math, history, science. So what are the essential building blocks of this inherited system? What do schools actually teach? On the surface, the curriculum seems pretty straightforward and undeniably essential. We learn the foundational 3 R's: reading, writing, arithmetic. These are the keys to navigating the modern world, the basic tools for economic participation. A person who cannot read a contract, write a letter, or calculate a budget is at a severe disadvantage. The school system is tasked with imparting this core literacy. Beyond the basics, the curriculum expands to include history, science. History is presented as a settled narrative meant to instill civic pride and shared heritage. Science provides a framework for understanding the physical world and principles of inquiry. However, woven throughout is a hidden curriculum that is arguably more powerful. This is where we learn the unspoken rules of the system. We learn to sit still, to raise our hands and wait to be called upon, to follow instructions without question. We learn that work is something you do in timed intervals, often on things you did not choose. And the reward for this work is a grade, an external validation. The curriculum is not just subjects. It's a carefully selected toolkit for building a compliant and productive workforce. The school day is governed by the clock. It is a world orchestrated by bells, buzzers, and rigid schedules. This is not a natural rhythm. It is an industrial one. The day is fractured into discrete uniform blocks of time: 50 minutes for math, followed by 50 minutes for English, then a precisely timed break for lunch. This structure teaches a profound and lasting lesson in discipline and routine. It conditions us to segment our lives, to switch our focus on command, and to subordinate our own interests and energy levels to an external timetable. The bell rings, and they must put it away and move on to history. This constant interruption discourages deep, immersive engagement and instead promotes a kind of intellectual multitasking. It prepares us perfectly for the modern workplace, where we are expected to juggle emails, meetings, and fragmented projects, but it does little to cultivate the sustained focus required for true mastery or creative breakthroughs. The discipline extends beyond the schedule. It is embedded in the very architecture and rules of the school. Walk in straight lines, sit in your assigned seat, do not talk without permission. The good student is frequently the one who is quiet, obedient, and follows the rules, not necessarily the most curious or creative. This focus on behavioral conformity trains us to prioritize following directions over forging our own path. Ultimately, the echo of the school bell conditions us for a life of external direction. Human beings are born with immense creative capacities. Young children are natural innovators. They experiment, they imagine, they ask endless questions, yet the structure of formal education often seems designed to systematically dismantle this innate creativity. In a system that prizes standardized curricula and correct answers, there's little room for the messy, unpredictable process of creative thought. Creativity thrives on exploration, risk-taking, making connections between different ideas. The relentless focus on academic subjects, arranged in a hierarchy, sends a clear message about what is valued. Math, languages, humanities. Many schools, facing budget cuts, eliminate programs in music, art, drama first. This is not just a curricular choice, it's a cultural statement. It tells students that expressive, imaginative, and aesthetic dimensions are less important than analytical skills. Furthermore, the obsession with standardized testing has a chilling effect on creativity in the classroom. When a teacher's success and a school's funding are tied to test scores, the curriculum inevitably narrows. There's just no time for detours, for interesting but non-examinable questions, or for student-led projects. The result is a climate of risk aversion where teachers and students are afraid to stray from the prescribed path. This is the antithesis of a creative environment. This industrial approach treats minds like raw material to be molded into a uniform product. We are systematically anesthetizing the very creative impulses we will desperately need to solve the complex problems of the future. Critical thinking is the ability to analyze information objectively, to identify different points of view, and to form one's own reasoned judgments. It's the foundation of a healthy democracy and the engine of personal autonomy. While schools often claim to teach critical thinking, their very structure can actually undermine its development. The traditional model is transmission. An expert imparts knowledge to passive students. The student's role is to receive, memorize, and accurately reproduce. This encourages deference to authority, not the questioning of it. The curriculum is often presented as a collection of settled facts and objective truths. History becomes a timeline to be memorized, not a contested narrative to be interpreted. Science becomes a list of formulas to be applied, not a dynamic process of inquiry. They're given a map with a clearly marked route and are graded on how well they follow it. There's little encouragement to explore the terrain for themselves or question the map maker's choices. They learn to find the answer in the back of the book, but are lost when faced with a problem that has no pre-written answer. This approach fosters intellectual dependency rather than self-reliance. Consider the role of the textbook. In many classrooms, it is the ultimate authority. Questions that fall outside the scope are seen as digressions. This teaches students that knowledge is finite and contained within approved sources. It discourages them from seeking out alternative perspectives or challenging the dominant narrative. True critical thinking requires intellectual courage and a willingness to grapple with ambiguity. Qualities difficult to cultivate here. Many students emerge with a strong ability to follow instructions, but a weak ability to formulate their own. They're skilled at finding the answer in a book, but lost when a problem has no book and no pre-written answer. From a very early age, the school system begins the process of sorting and channeling students toward their future economic roles. It's kind of like an assembly line of ambition, subtly guiding individuals toward particular career paths based on perceived aptitudes. This sorting often begins with the academic hierarchy itself. Math, science are labeled as smart and nudged toward prestigious careers. Medicine, engineering, finance. Their path is laid out. AP classes, top-tier university, professional career. Conversely, students whose talents lie in the arts or vocational skills are often treated as less academically gifted. Their passions are framed as hobbies rather than viable careers. The system has a limited vocabulary for success, spoken in academic achievement. A brilliant mechanic, a gifted caregiver, a talented musician may not have their skills recognized. They are guided toward less prestigious paths or left to figure it out alone. The very structure of career counseling reinforces the assembly line model. It's often based on standardized aptitude tests, matching students to predetermined job categories. Rarely, what problem do you want to solve? What kind of life do you want to create? Instead, it asks, which of these existing boxes do you fit into? It limits imagination, steering away from entrepreneurial, creative, unconventional paths. This process limits individual potential and impoverishes society by devaluing essential talents. Personal freedom is the capacity to make authentic choices about one's own life, to direct one's own path according to one's own values, to follow one's passions. It's perhaps the most cherished ideal of a democratic society. Yet the traditional school system pushes conformity and external direction. It can challenge the cultivation of inner freedom. For 12 years, students are immersed in a controlled environment. Their time is not their own. Their curriculum is chosen for them. Their success is measured by standards they did not set. The jump to adulthood can be terrifying. The real world has no bells, no syllabus, no clear grading rubric. Many graduates feel lost, waiting for the next assignment. They look for jobs that mimic school structure and predictability, that pushes them towards safe, conventional paths rather than personally fulfilling ones. Their wings are fully grown, yet they've been conditioned to live inside the cage. This dynamic reshapes how we see authority. Schools are hierarchical by design. The teacher is authority, the principal higher, the school board higher still. Students learn to please those in power, developing habits of seeking approval and avoiding dissent. That makes them hesitant to challenge workplaces, to question leaders, or to advocate change in their communities. A healthy democracy needs people who speak up, who think for themselves, who hold power accountable. Training obedience can undermine freedom's foundations. Of course, freedom is not anarchy. It requires discipline, responsibility, and understanding consequences. The question isn't to abandon structure, but whether current structures promote inner freedom. We have journeyed back to the 19th century origins of our schools, seeing how the visions of Horace Mann and the Prussian state laid a blueprint for an industrial age. We've examined the building blocks of this system, the core subjects, the powerful hidden curriculum of compliance. We've seen how the daily routines, the emphasis on right answers, and the systematic sorting of talent can stifle creativity and narrow our vision of what is possible for our lives. The architecture of the past still stands, shaping the experiences of every child who walks through its doors today. The lessons learned within these walls extend far beyond the classroom. They shape our relationship with time, with authority, with our creative impulses, and with our sense of personal freedom. The system is remarkably effective at what it was originally designed to do: produce a literate, orderly, and compliant population. It trains people to follow instructions, to work to a schedule, and to fit into pre-existing roles. But as we stand in the 21st century, a world of unprecedented complexity and rapid change, we're forced to confront the ghost in the machine. The skills needed for today and tomorrow: adaptability, creativity, critical inquiry, collaboration, emotional intelligence, are the very skills the old system marginalizes. The world no longer needs a vast army of human calculators and compliant assembly line workers. It needs innovators, entrepreneurs, artists, and compassionate leaders. People who can write their own script, not just follow someone else's. This brings us to the fundamental, provocative question we must all ask ourselves. We must ask it as parents, as teachers, as policymakers, and as citizens. Is the primary purpose of our school system to initiate our children into the full richness of their own lives? Or is it primarily designed to prepare them for a lifetime of work? Are we educating our children for life in all its unpredictable, messy, and wonderful complexity? Or are we simply training them for labor? Is today's school system preparing us for life, or just for jobs?